It happens. How's the hurricane, bro?
Uh, they're making a big deal out of it last night. It was heading directly for us, and then this morning it took a big right turn, and
Oh, really?
it got degraded to a tropical storm, and it's just been raining here all day. I mean, no trees have fallen down or anything, but
That's
it's
good.
supposed to be really bad, but it just overnight it just phased out.
I think they were probably concerned about that one year. Remember when New York City got like flooded and like all that stuff happened?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
do you guys get
yeah.
hurricanes very often up there?
No, it's always the same story. It like starts out really bad and like it sneaks its way up the East Coast, and by the time it gets to us, it just bleeds out.
Pulls off, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we've never had like anything. Last year we had I don't know if it was a hurricane. We had a really bad windstorm, rainstorm, and I lost power for like 3 days. But
Yeah. Huh.
yeah,
I don't know what weather's like out here in San Diego. It's just sunny and
constant.
hot. Yeah, it's constant. I was telling my buddy back in Indiana the other day, I was like, we don't even check the weather. I was like, in Southern California, you almost have no reason to check the weather because it's just either going to be a little bit hotter than yesterday or a little bit cooler. It's never going to be like extremely different, except
Yeah,
like 1 or 2 days of the year, you'll get like a surprise rain or something like that, which was what happened to us one time when we
yep,
I remember telling the guys then at Camp Lejeune, I would check the weather every day because
yep.
hurricanes and all kinds of shit happening. But there we wouldn't. And then one day we did like a brigade gear layout of all of our comm gear. And anybody that's ever done a comm gear layout knows that sucks. And for the entire brigade, that's a lot of comm gear. And
Yeah.
I don't remember why we were doing it. I don't know if it was a change of command or something was going on, but I remember we had to do it. And it was all, I think you guys had just finished. Everything laid out, nice laid out. All the record jackets were laid out. Everything looked ready to go. Me and the captain were getting ready to come out, and then boom,
Is this
rainstorm.
that Anglico?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one. That
Yeah.
was a
Weren't you there
really
for that?
yeah. I don't remember the reason. It was
One of the
it,
many
it, it,
reasons.
it was one of the things where like it took all day, and then we thought we were done, and they're like, we have to do this, and then we thought we were done again, and it just kept getting added, and it's that thing where you're doing good, and then all of a sudden people start disappearing, and you're. Long story short, I remember like we got everyone together, and we're like, let's just show up at 4 in the morning and just get it the fuck over with, because we're
Yeah.
just sick and tired of this shit. Let's just get it over with. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember
One
Major
big
White.
layout instead of like piecemealing it out over the week.
Yeah, well, it was like it was going to be one big layout no matter what, but we were just like, because it takes all fucking day to lay everything out. So we're like, let's just show up at 4 in the morning and just get it the fuck over with, and it worked out really well. But
Yeah.
God,
For
oh
those
my
that don't know
God,
what we're talking about, we literally just take a parking lot and fill it full of all the radios, all the components, and you go through and you count everything. It's the accountability, which I
hmm
guess taxpayers should be happy that that stuff actually occurs in
yeah,
some places. Not over in Afghanistan, obviously, but we kept accountability of our gear pretty well. You were like extremely anal about your gear too, because you didn't want anyone messing with any of your firepower control team's comm gear or anything like that. Didn't you mark yours with like camo tape or some shit?
we tried that, but it was kind of stupid in the end because you just end up checking the serial number anyway. So it's like you can put tape on it and do whatever you want to do, but in the end, you're gonna read the number off. Yeah, yeah. But I was pretty anal about it, was because like every time people would just rat fuck all the gear, and like
Yeah.
and you get home, and I was guilty of this. You just want to get back, so everyone's just putting it away all like fuck it, just throw it in there and we'll call it a day, and then that comes back to bite you in the ass later on.
Yeah, get it on the shelves
And
tonight and then we'll sort it out tomorrow.
yeah, and then you get the guys who like just don't give a fuck, and they're uh like the radio mounts that used to go on the Humvees and they would hold the 152s. They had like you would put it in. It had like all these pins in the back, and people would just pick them up and flip them upside down, and the pins would like hit the asphalt and break, and then they're useless. People would just like didn't care, or they would plug the little remote into the. Remember how you could plug the little cable into the Fox and then run the little
Mm,
button display wirelessly? People would just like shove it in there and turn it and break the pins off, and
yeah.
it's like, all right, man, just take 2 minutes and look at it and do it right. We don't have to rush.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, that's how it is. We pulled up to that's the story of Anglico, man. We pull up to the OP in Arizona a lot of times, and they're like, all right, aircraft's checking in a minute, so we have to hike all the way up the mountain, and everyone's like freaking out, and all the JTACs are like, I need grids, I need this yesterday, and it's
Well, yeah. I mean, anytime you're like in the moment, you got to be like,
yeah,
I don't
you
know,
do.
put the pressure on, get everybody going. Do you feel like how does that work now that you're in like the real world, and you're working as a thread grinder, or machinist? I don't know what you consider yourself.
Both.
It's okay. So machinist, and you work in a machinist shop. Is there any kind of like, let's go, like we got to get this done? Like, is there any kind of pressure, or is it a pretty kind of like laid back environment?
It's pressure. It's like you get a big company if we deal with like a mom and pop type shop, and then you'll get a guy or a company that's like several hundred employees, and then they're like one of the biggest manufacturers of whatever this product is in the world. And a lot of times they'll call, and the guy calling isn't a guy on the line making the part. He's just like a admin guy, for lack of a better term. And they call, they're like, hey, how's that job coming? I need a projected date on it, when it's going to be done. And sometimes it's like not even here yet. Like we do work for a company in New Hampshire, and they'll send a driver down, and he's not even here yet. And they'll call us and be like, when can we get it? It's like, well, we have an idea of what it is because we've done all the work for you. And, when it comes here, it's probably a job we've done for you, but it's going to take probably a week or two. And like I said, it's not even here yet. So give us a break,
Yeah.
It's always a lot of when can I have it? When can I have it? And we try our best to, do what we can. And a lot of times, yeah, and especially this past week, we got a couple of jobs in that are repair jobs. They tried to thread it themselves, and a lot of times it's over-engineered, and it's just not going to work. Or if you had just brought it to us the first time, it would have been right.
Are you like a general machinist shop? Like, can you work on like car, like motors and stuff, like boring those out and everything? Or do you guys specialize in like certain things?
We just do threading.
Just
That's all
threading,
we do.
huh?
Yeah, but it's like we got a guy. We got a guy that came in this week. He had a piece. I'm not exactly sure what it goes through. It goes something important. He's like, yeah, I try to do it myself. I have 100 of these, and you have like a mating part that has a thread like inside of it, and it's screwing on to the outside thread. Mm-hmm. He's like, you guys are my last resort. This is like 3 months worth of work. And he goes, if I don't get these to work, then Sikorsky is going to be down for indefinitely, and they're down in Stratford, Connecticut, making helicopters. So that's pretty important. I mean, they make the CH-53.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess there's a new model of the 53 out.
Yeah. The Kilo.
I was talking to an artillery officer that'll remain unnamed, and he said the Marine Corps decided to purchase like 3 extra Kilo helicopters instead of funding like all the stuff the artillery community was asking for could have been funded, but instead they're like, give us 3 more or like 2 more of those. It was like 1 to 3 helicopters extra.
Yeah.
That if they would have just cut those, they could have funded literally everything that the artillery community was asking for, but instead they didn't get anything. I was like, that sucks.
That sucks, man. Yeah, that's way above us,
Fires,
again,
man.
It's only 3 helicopters. Like,
those
things are huge, though.
No, they're fucking massive, man. I mean, how many people fit in the back? I think, what do we have? Like, you could put probably 25 or something.
Yeah.
I think
it's got to be right. One of my coworkers, his brother used to, I don't remember which helicopter it was. It was one of them military helicopters, but he used to put the holes in for the rivets, when they would join two pieces of sheet metal together. They had a policy where it was like, they were not as focused on like getting it done. They told the guys like, look, if you feel tired or fatigued or your mind just isn't in there, we want you to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes and just chill because it has to be right.
Yeah.
That's how critical it is. So we'd rather you like call it for the day essentially, or just take a 5-minute break than just rush and get this wrong.
Yeah, for
You know?
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I mean, you can't be messing around when you're talking about airframes and stuff like that, you know? Like that's
Yeah.
definitely a huge deal. You can't be fucking that up.
No.
I wonder if any of these, like, now that we're pulling out of Afghanistan, I wonder if, like, how these defense contracts look. You know what I'm saying? Are any of those going to be affected because it's like, hey, the war is pretty much over there now, so they're probably projecting ahead, you know, to this whole China threat
I'm
and
sure they
working towards
are.
that. Yeah.
I mean, you look at I'm gonna screw this up. They already have that replacement for the B-52. It's like the B-41 Dominator or something.
I saw something about it. What is it? It kind of
I'm
looks
gonna
like a
looks
giant stealth
like a
fighter, right?
yeah. I'll
The
look it up
wing,
real quick.
the wing looking one. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Spending more money. They're also using a remote controlled truck with like rockets to shoot
I
ships.
saw that. Yeah,
I'm
the
like,
anti-ship missile.
man, our war was going to be kind of lame. They're out here using all kinds of crazy shit. They're using like movie stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like the drone warfare stuff is actually coming into play.
Yeah,
The shitty
yeah.
part
You know,
about that, though, is the threat of being knowing that your adversary is also has drones. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, that's a real thing. Like I listened a while ago. I was listening to Eddie Gallagher on a podcast, and he was saying when I think they're in Mosul when the whole thing went down with his team, but he was saying like the ISIS fighters would fly drones over their position
Mm-hmm.
and get like a rough picture of where they were. And he said as soon as he saw drones flying, he's like, "All right, get ready. IDF's coming pretty soon."
They would
And
all go ahead.
also with the drones, I was listening to. You ever heard of Andy Stumpf?
Yeah,
He was a former SEAL. He has a pretty good podcast out.
yeah,
He
cleared
was
hot.
interviewing, yeah, cleared hot. He was interviewing a DEA agent the other day, talking about the drugs crossing the border. He was saying they're attaching drugs to drones and just
Mm-hmm.
flying them over. And he's like, "Oh, I never thought of that." And I'm like, "Oh, me too." You know, that's the reality.
On my second Mew, we were planning more to support. Well, I mean, I guess we were the guys that sent the first Marine artillery in for the artillery mission in Syria. The intel and stuff that we were looking at, though, they were definitely using like the DJI quadcopters, just like the one I have one on the shelf over there, and
Yeah.
they would also attach like grenades or mortar rounds to them. They had made an attachment so that they could fly over something and then drop it. I was like, damn, man, that's. But yeah, man, the future is going to be shitty, like where you could just be sitting there chilling, eating an MRE, and boom. You know, I mean, that could happen anyway, but I don't know. I think the threat of drones seems pretty. That would be. I don't know. That
Yeah.
would be
And
shitty thinking about. You know.
yeah, it's hard for me to like wrap my mind around it because like of the time that you and me got out. I mean, we're like GWAT veterans. You know, we're used to like we have air superiority and we're fighting a insurgency. Now it's like we have to think beyond that. What's
Lad's going to
coming.
come back into play. You know, they're gonna
Yeah.
everybody's gonna stop having to make fun of Lad because there's gonna be the guys out there smoking drones everywhere.
Yeah, you guys made fun of us for the 20 years or whatever we were in GWAT. Now we're coming back.
We are the infantry of the goddamn air wing, sir. All right,
Yeah,
all right, man.
sure.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So
I
what
don't
do you?
know. I made friends with the lad guys on the San Diego. They were cool, but
Yeah.
they had no job.
That's the shitty thing is like it's a cool job. Like what is your actual job? Oh, I'm supposed to like shoot down airplanes with missiles, you know, or air defense. Sounds cool,
Yeah.
but the reality is we almost always have air superiority. So unless we're fighting China or Russia, the Lad guys aren't really getting much work. It's almost like our counter battery radar guys. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like I had a counter battery radar guy at my FOB in Marja. Was part of my, I worked in the command center for 3-6, and he was part of like my fire. He would come in and give us an update on but his thing was so sensitive. He was getting like 160 like tracks a day or something like that. It was like if someone threw a rock anywhere in Marja, he picked it up. And it was like, how good
Yeah.
is it when you're reading everything? You know, like I don't know.
Yeah, it's we try so many different things. Like all the stuff we saw over the years. Like I remember on my second deployment with the Geos, they gave us the little hockey puck ground sensors that we were supposed to dig into the ground.
Yeah.
Our patrol base at one point had the boomerang system, that little star-shaped microphone thing that can tell you, it's like shot 12 o'clock, 300 yards. It like
I
we
never saw
tried to
that.
use that. It didn't work that well. It was it
Yeah.
was it was broken half the time. And then halfway through the tour, they gave us the Wolfhound system. That's the
Mm.
thing that you listen to the ICOM. So it's just all these different things we're trying to think of, but
Yeah, I don't know if we could talk about that.
I don't know. It's pretty public knowledge, but
Yeah, I mean, all this stuff too, though, like the stuff that is like that we talk about as garbage, like, oh, this didn't work very well. All the, like it's only going to get better, though. Our
that's true.
experiences of like doing that is just going to, I don't know, dealing with the bullshit, dealing with the crappy like shot sensors and stuff like that is only going to make the next iteration of that better. And now, as much as people hate on like military guys getting out and going and working for like weapons companies or whatever as government, working in the government contract sector, like getting, what do you say, procuring stuff for the
Yeah.
military. They're the people that have the most knowledge on it, to a point. There's obviously generals and shit that are out there fucking getting bad contracts. Like those slings. Were you in still when they started making everybody use the Vicker sling?
No.
It was like you couldn't use anything else on the range except for the Vicker sling. Everything else you weren't supposed to carry anything else. And it was like, dude, just let us use whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah.
Like, we're the ones shooting. Let the people shooting use whatever the fuck we want to use. Like, this is stupid.
I was yeah, you know me. I spent my whole time at ANGLICO, so I was in the Marine Corps' eyes doing whatever I wanted. So that means basically never going to the rifle range. And then I put my own buttstock on the M4 and I bought my own sling. I was doing some illegal shit to my M4 also. I almost got in trouble.
For like what? What are you talking about? Like actually illegal or like?
Oh, it was very bad. Like by the time I was walking the line way too much towards the end. I put my own selector switch on my M4, so I had an ambidextrous switch, and I fucked with the internals a little bit. And when I was turning into the armory, I almost got in trouble, but he kind of swept it under the rug.
It's like, well, you didn't fuck it up when you put it together, so can't be mad about it.
Well, he was wondering why I was like taking things apart and putting the original stuff back on. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, don't. And he was cool with me, but he's like, "Dude, don't ever fucking do that again."
Oh, you would take that off every time you put it in the armory?
No. Like when I was doing my final turn in.
Oh.
Yeah, I had to like take the selector switch off, and he like walked in. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing."
Some units will, kind of like, whatever, dude, you're using it, Like, we actually went out and used our rifles all the time. It was one of those units where you literally have your rifle with you constantly whenever you're out training and stuff.
Well, that's why I'm happy because, like, I remember like 2012 and 13, I was in Afghanistan and they were like, can't use PMAGs anymore. And then shortly thereafter, the Marine Corps allowed it. And I'm pretty happy that like seeing the pictures of the Marines at Hamid Karzai Airport.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, and not that it's needed, but I'm seeing them with better hearing protection and better helmets, and they all have good looking kit and suppressors, and all their weapons look pretty good. I'm like, that's great. Like at least they're more open minded to it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that they're like letting them do that.
Yeah, it's not just cool guy gear. It's like actual suppressors have a purpose. It's kind of nice to be able to hear. It's easier to hear commands and stuff when you can yell. And so, I don't know. Yeah, it all has its purpose. Like I said, and you got to get all the assholes out that are against all that stuff. Yeah. All the old school dudes, that are like, where's my deuce gear and my canteens? Yeah. And, they're the guys that wear the 3-quart canteen on their back when they go run and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're used to like Iraq. It's like you're going to wear your interceptor vest and your magazines have to be on your right and your IFAC has to be here. It's that generation's done. You got to be more open-minded.
I can understand, I guess, if you're like, hey, we want the IFAC in this spot. I can understand that, I guess, just for that one item. But everything else, I'm like, why not let the person that's like carrying the ammo, going to use these tools, make it more comfortable for them? It doesn't look uniform. Okay, Sergeant Major, we're not in a fucking parade. Like we're going to like an actual war zone. You know what I'm saying? Like in a war zone, let dudes kind of. And I think a lot of times people let the actual frontline, guys get away with a little bit. They can do whatever they want and stuff. But in training, they just don't allow it. I don't know. You hate to see it. There is a fine line between giving a little bit too much freedom to the mass, because
Yeah.
not everybody thinks like you and I, where we're like, okay, well, I will have this here because this is where I need it specifically because it helps me reload faster or whatever. Some guys are just morons and be like, well, it makes. Remember that one dude who showed up? We had a comm officer show up to ANGLICO who put his magazines in his IFAC. He put his magazines on his back and his IFAC on his front because we were going on a hike with the MiG or whatever leadership. I don't remember what it was. It was like all those people came out to Las Flores. And we're like, what are you doing? He's like, it makes more sense for me to have my IFAC here and my magazines back there because that's what I'll actually use on the hike. And I'm like, I guess, man, but you look like a moron.
It's like, I don't know. I think a lot of that stuff is like one of the big things is like I know things happen last second, but a lot of it boils down to planning. Like I was really impressed with like our recon det on the San Diego, like because I remember they thought. I mean, they never did this, but they're like, there's a possibility we might go into Yemen and fast rope in and take care of the Houthis. Obviously, it never happened, but remember there was like an armor threat, and they're like, okay, some of the guys have to carry AT-4s. And I remember just this small gesture, like, you know, how many times it's like you're walking out to the helicopter and it's like, oh, yeah, by the way, take this. And it's like last second you're trying to shove something in. I was impressed because, like, I remember days prior, the platoon commander was like, hey, let's break those things out so that guys know where to mount them on their gear so that when they go through the hellhole, it's not we're not figuring this out last second. Like, let's do it right. You know, and that's like ANGLICO. Like, I won't mention someone's name, but in Salt Delta, they used to always make fun of me about being a gear queer and all that. And I remember, like, the day ended, air quotes, it's like, oh, it's 4 o'clock, I want to go home. And I was like, oh, I'm going to stay and fill up my water and program all my radios. And they're like, why don't you just do it tomorrow? I'm like, well, because I want to be able to come in, grab my shit and go. And then if something last second comes up, I'll deal with it. But it's like, I want to take care of all the errors that I can take care of now. Because I remember when you and Captain Watt took over, we were doing these backyard field ops and we were always late, you know, because dudes were like scrambling together to put their shit together. And it's like, all right, well, if you'd stayed a little later the night before, you would have fixed that problem.
And you start to overlook things too. I remember we did a hike. We had a bunch of new guys, and I remember we did a hike. And when they got back from their movement, I'm like, all right, empty your packs out. Let's see what you had. Or I don't know if it was a hike. It was like a mission. We had like a fake little mission for them. And I'm like, empty your packs out and let's see what you have. And including what they were supposed to have, they had all kinds of bullshit from like past, you know, field ops and stuff that they just never took out of their pack. And it's like you just moved like 8 miles or 10 miles with a few pounds extra gear for no reason. Because you just didn't want to clean, you didn't want to go through your pack and make sure, like, why do I need my wool gloves? It's fucking July. You know, like, why is that? You know, shit like that. It's like, why is that in there?
Yeah, that's like that scene in Platoon when Charlie Sheen, they're about to go on that night patrol, and Willem Dafoe goes up to him. He's like, "Don't need this. Don't need this."
Yeah.
He's pulling all this shit off of him. He's like, "Hey man, we're traveling light tonight, so take half that crap off."
And I think that was the best time for those guys to hear it too, because they were all beat, they were all tired, and it was like, drop your packs, empty them out, and let's look at what you didn't need to bring, you know, because that was a lesson learned immediately. Like, oh shit, why do I have an e-tool? You know, like whatever. So, you know, it's just some of those things you got to do. But hey, guys don't know what they don't know, especially with the new guys. That's why you got to take them out and let them make mistakes and stuff. I think we did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the great thing about ANGLICO, though, is that you get a lot of leeway, you know, because the command gives the teams a lot of leeway. The teams are so busy all the time. The command gives the teams a lot of leeway to conduct the training how they see fit. There may be an overall, you know, like an overarching goal that the command wants them to get to for whatever mission's coming up. But it's like me and Captain Watt planned everything. We scheduled our own ammo. We scheduled our own ranges, like, you know, and we just kind of kept them up to date of what we were doing. And then, I don't know, allowed us to let you guys do a lot more stuff than you would normally do in some units, you know, especially as you're a radio operator, you know, so what do radio operators do in a lot of units? Sit around and fucking do record jackets and bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know about in the infantry really. I mean, they're out with them and stuff a lot also, but.
Yeah, but a lot of it is like stop. it takes a while to really start thinking outside the box, but it's like when we would go to ranges and we would never do the standard tables of fire
No.
anymore. We would do more practical things. It's like, you know, going back to the way people had their gear set up. Like I remember when I first got to Anglico, everyone had the strobe in that little pouch that it would come in. And for some reason, like people would always put it over their shoulder on their back. And I would see guys and I'm like, that's not a very good spot to put it. Like you can't even reach it. Like, but I would see everyone doing it. And I'm like, I know you're doing this because you saw that guy do it. And you're just, well, that must be how it works. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, let's think for a minute. Like, does that actually make sense? Or is it like, oh, well, that's how that guy's doing it, I better do it the same way. So it's like, I feel like that you saw a lot of that, you know?
Yeah, you got to break the chain of stupidity at some point. That's what
Yeah.
I would see infantry officers sometimes put their 152 on their back. And, you know, and then if they needed to change their shit, they would have someone come over and change it. I'm like, that makes zero sense, dude. Like, what are you doing? You know, why are you putting your radio on your back where you can't even, like, access it? Same deal, though, you know?
Yeah, it is super common, yeah.
I don't know. I guess I mean, as a fire support guy, as an attachment, it was always, you're a one-man show a lot of times. So there wasn't a lot of like, hey, I'm going to put my radio on my back because so-and-so's he's my radio operator and he'll change it or help me with whatever I need to, you know, like that would make zero sense because it's all you. So you have to be very like, I interviewed Blake, Blakewater 0321, I think is his Instagram page. I have to look it up.
Yeah,
and
we message each other sometimes.
He does all kinds of gear, like here's the gear, here's the different types, here's how I wear it, here's how some other people wear it. And like the way he does that is a really good breakdown of like, you know, the gear and how it's used and how it can be utilized better. And I think a lot of people, he's like the online NCO that a lot of people don't have, you know, to explain their gear to them.
Yeah, I like his little kit considerations post.
Yeah, kit considerations.
Cool. Yeah, I like it. It's really good.
And he does like everything too. So, did you listen to the last podcast with with those guys who were on the Georgian liaison team?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, how does that compare with like your Georgian liaison team? Like, did you guys go? I don't remember if you guys went to Germany and did all that, or if you guys just met them in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna screw this up. I think he said he was like rotation 10, and we were like, oh man, we were like rotation 6, I think. Yeah, I think we were 6, so it was a lot earlier. And yeah, by the time he did it, I think the focus was Bagram. But yeah, we did the whole thing. We did our Anglico training as assault in Pendleton. Then we flew to Germany for that same month-long thing that he was talking about. We never actually went to Georgia though, so we went to Germany, met our dudes, trained with them for like a month, came home, took our pre-deployment, and then like met our guys in Leatherneck.
Yeah, but
it was helpful because it's like, okay, you know, these are the actual guys, this is your company, and know the faces, know the key players. Like I can't tell you how many times on the MU like we did workups where it was like at the last second, it's like, oh, hey, by the way, you're going with AAV today, and you show up, and they're already like, they already got their rosters printed out, and they don't even know you're coming, and they're like, who the fuck are you? And now you look like an asshole. So this was better because like, all right, we lived with you for a month, you know us, we know you, this is what we're here for, and yeah, that helped out.
Yeah, it's interesting talking to like you and like Dustin Reel and stuff like that who have done these Georgian rotations because I only saw him a handful of times, like at Leatherneck and shit. I never interacted with him, like, downrange, I guess, from there, you know, like on the front lines, I guess. You were out patrolling and shit with them. As a radio operator, like, were they using our radios? Were they using unencrypted variants of our radios? Or, like, what kind of comms did they have?
Yeah, it's, they had, from what I understand, they had, like, 152s that were modified so that they couldn't hold a crypto key. So they're non CCI radios is what they're called. A lot of time there's actually a picture in Afghanistan of like all the weapons that the Taliban caught. There was like a pile of 152s, but I was like, those are the ones we would give to the ANA, but they can't hold a crypto key from what I understand.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, it was they used 152s, and I think a couple of them had Foxes. I don't
Okay.
really know the status behind those, but I remember that because you can plug a GPS into the Fox, I believe, and that's how they would give their pause reps. They'd have
Hmm.
a like we had the little wrist GPSs. They would have to like look at the little keypad, but
Yeah.
same thing. So, yeah, a lot of them had 152s.
Okay. Yeah, for those that don't know what we're talking about, the 152 is the walkie-talkie kind of style with different antennas, and then the 117 is the backpack radio, which is what
Yeah.
we normally carry. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, did you? So if they're on a different like net, did you ever try to talk with them, or were you guys just focused on talking back to higher headquarters or whatever?
Talking back with them, but there was that operation we did where we were like trying to evac the MARSOC team from that patrol base that got encircled. I mean, not just my team; it was like a regimental level op. Uh, we put some of their freaks into our radios in our vehicles just so we can talk to their trucks,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just a matter of like flipping it to plain text and then going like
Okay.
VHF voice. So
Yeah.
it was not a big deal. But obviously they couldn't like hear our stuff because we would just flip it to encrypted, and they had like no capability to do that.
What was this? What's this op you're talking about? Have we talked about this?
Yeah, I think on our first episode, it was like there was a I think you had a MARSOC guy on here. He talked about the VSPs. It stands for like Village Stabilization Point. From what I understand, it's like a small fire base,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where they kind of do. I think that's where they kind of do their FID out of, trying to engage with the locals. But from what I was told, this place kind of got encircled, and the only way they can resupply it was via airdrop. So it was like a regimental. Our CT7 came up with a plan to like get them out of there. So they sent a bunch of grunts and up to our base to stage, and then we drove over to where their base was. Our Georgian mission, we stopped short and set up a blocking position so they couldn't backlay IEDs on us.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was like 3-9. They pushed forward with tanks, and they had to like Miklik their way all the way down to the VSP, and then they had to like evac it. And from what I understand, they were getting into a lot of good fights. Like the tanks were shooting their main guns. The MARSOC JTAC was just like slicking the rails really fast on these guys. Like I remember we had his radio frequency. He had a section of Cobras check in, and he checked in, gave him his like, "Hey, I'm checking in." Gave him his like set rep, and he's like, "Yeah, Roger. I need you to do an IMA right now." So he like rolled right into an attack. Crazy. I mean, we didn't see much of it because we were just holding a blocking position. That's where I learned how reliable those MAT Vs are, because we had a crazy radio setup in our MAT V. Like I
Mm-hmm.
got extra comm gear from the Sol. I think we were running like 5 or 6 nets at once, but we had the truck running for like 10 days. Like we only shut it off when we would go to get refueled, but the thing ran for like 10 days because we had to keep the amplifiers on.
Damn.
But cool thing was, like I think the second or third day in the op, they had to bulldoze their way in, and I guess one of the bulldozers got stuck in the mud. So they're like, "All right, we'll deal with that at the end." And then slowly, as the thing progressed, like you could see units like driving past us, like that are evacing. And as it got down to like the last couple dudes, they were like, "All right." We heard this on the radio. It was like I think it was like the RCT7 colonel. He was talking. He's like, "All right, I can either send a Marine to do like the freaking Medal of Honor dash and try to go run and jumpstart the thing, or we can just blow it up."
Oh.
And what happened was they called in. They had a pair of F-16s come in and drop a couple of JDAMs on it.
Really?
Yeah,
Holy shit.
we listened to the whole thing on the radio. It was like line 5 bulldozer. Is that right? The target description, line 5? I don't know. It's been forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like target description, bulldozer, and it's, all right. So yeah, they evac this base, and then they just like demilled it, and then they dropped some JDAMs on the bulldozer, so the Taliban couldn't have it. Crazy.
The taxpayer money, man. All that gear that we just gave the Taliban. They just have so much good stuff now.
Oh, I'm trying my best to stay quiet on Instagram and shit. I refuse to post anything because I just don't want to be that guy. But it sucks really seeing all that equipment.
Yeah, that does suck. I'm not like ever. Yeah, there's some people that are getting real worked up about this whole thing, getting upset about it, and I'm like, dude, if you didn't know this was going to happen, I feel like you just weren't paying attention. For the last
I totally
15
knew
years.
it was going to happen.
And
but it's hard because like everyone's like last week. I mean, again, it dies down like every media thing. But last week, everyone's like, "How do you feel? How do you feel?"
mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, you've never even been to the country, so it's hard for me to like, explain like, okay, these are the ANA. This is what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't very competent. A lot of them were on drugs. A lot of people don't know how to read. And they're like, oh, really? So you have to take it back a step. Be like, okay, yeah, Afghanistan is like this. This is how it is. So it's like you're starting day one, week one with these people, and it's like,
yeah.
So I got to the point where I was like, I don't really want to talk about it because like they haven't been, and they just like don't understand. It would take me forever to explain everything to them.
It's almost like taking a bunch of 4th and 5th graders and teaching them how to be soldiers, how to be professional soldiers. Because that's like the education level that they're at, if that.
Yeah, that's kind of the short answer that I've been giving people. Like, if I do want to say something, they're like, "Oh, how come they got overran?" And I'm like, "Well, that's what happens when you let children take over."
Part of it, I will say too, though, in their defense, is a lot of these outlying areas. Like where we were at, down in Kandahar area, down in around Marja and all that, all Helmand province. Those dudes weren't getting paid, and they had like no food, and they had like no ammo. So it's like if you're the ANA, if you have no food and you have like one magazine of ammo, what are you going to do when the Taliban says you can either give up or we'll kill you?
Oh, for sure. And it's like all these. It's like a gang rolling in. Like,
yeah,
they outnumber you. They're way better armed, and they're just like, "Hey, yeah, you're either with us or against us."
That's why I think when the whole thing kicked off, I made a post and I was like, "Man, it just sucks," because I know there was a lot of good Afghans that really wanted a change in their country, and a lot of good soldiers that were willing to fight for their country, and it was all thwarted by the level of corruption that went all the way to the highest levels of government there. It wasn't the individual foot soldier sometimes. It was like the commanders bought their positions, and then they would also, I don't know, man, everything, there's so much corruption, stealing fuel, stealing uniforms, selling weapons, optics, it was just like, what are you going to do? And for me, I'm not surprised also because I was in Sangin, and Sangin got overran by ISIS like 2 years ago or something like that. I don't think it's been held by ANA or any Americans in a long time. So my whole like disgust happened already because I'm like, ugh. After I saw the videos of the bazaar in Sangin just being completely empty and destroyed, it was just like, man, they had like a bustling... We'd have to be dodging cars and mopeds and stuff and all the people going through the bazaar. And now it's just empty and, it sucks for those people, Yeah,
I just have to, like, consider, like, just look at myself and be like, and I feel for the people who fall into this category, but I'm just like, well, aside from some, like, mental scars and being upset, it's like I didn't get hurt. Like, I'd feel a lot different if, like, I went over there and, like, was an amputee. I couldn't imagine how those people, or like a family member who lost somebody. Like,
yeah,
I'm not in that.
That's
boat.
True.
I have my own feelings, and that's it. But if I like went over there and like lost my leg, I'd be a little bit more pissed. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for that, but yeah, I just know my situation.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to know. I think the only person I personally knew that was killed was Jason Kalo. Killed in Afghanistan. I knew a few other guys that had been killed in training and stuff. So maybe that's part of it, Maybe if I was in like a unit like 3-5 or something that lost a ton of guys and, it'd be different. Like, what was it all for? Kind of. I don't know, man. I'm just a very like whatever. I try not to let things bother me because if I'm going to sit here and dwell on, oh no, the country fell, like we all knew it was going to. Like, what good does it do for me to sit here and be sad or fucking upset? I will say that the withdrawal was a fucking shit show. And all of this started because they fucking pulled troops out of Bagram, before they started pulling all the people out of Kabul. And Bagram has like 3 airstrips on it or something like that. Kabul has 1. It's like, Why didn't you get everybody, all these diplomats and all these like refugees and stuff that you're wanting to get out before you closed up the final air base that had the capability to keep air support in the air all the time and stuff like that, you know?
Yep.
That's
now they're just sending more guys in. Like I just saw the 82nd has gone in. I don't know how many of them, but
they've been there. They went in. There was like 1,000 went in. I think the same time as the MEU, as the I think 1-8, and then I think the 82nd sent more guys. I think there's like 7,000 troops on the ground there, American troops. That doesn't include all the French and Brits and all that stuff. Yeah. You know, what a
it looks bad. Like right before we recorded, I saw a video of like, you know, the refugees at the wire, and it was like a bunch of British troops, and they were saying like they have to like spray them with a hose to keep them cool because there's just no water and it's hot.
Fuck yeah, it's hot.
And they're just collapsing. So one of the British troops was on a Connex box just spraying them with a hose to try to keep them cool.
What a crazy place, man. You know what I've been doing, which is kind of wild, and maybe people out there will try this that has Snapchat. I don't know, do you have Snapchat?
No, I got rid of it.
I have. That's one of those things I never use it. I think we have one group that you were a part of for a little bit, and I don't even barely get on there. But I've gotten on the last few days, and I go over on the maps, and you can go over Kabul and see people's actual Snapchats. So I'm sitting there watching all these Snapchats from Kabul, and most of them are like dudes getting ready to play Warzone or getting ready to play Fortnite, and they're like getting ready for the Taliban, and they're like joking about it. And then you see people that are out on the street, and they see like Taliban vehicles and shit drive by and stuff at the airport, but some of them are like us, man. They're just joking around like, fuck, what else can you do, you know? Laugh or cry. Might as well laugh about it.
Did you see that picture of the I don't know if it's real, the Taliban doing the Iwo Jima flag raising?
Yeah, that's so stupid. Like, whatever.
I don't know if is that real?
Yeah, no, that is real. That it says like they're using US equipment and stuff like that, and they're not. That's like the camo's not ours. It's a propaganda thing, man. Hey, dude, they're winning the propaganda war right now, and especially in there. Maybe here in the States, people still know like whatever, but over there, it's like they're taking over. It's hard for we have our Department of State or someone came out and they're like, we're issuing a letter of caution to the Taliban because of human rights abuses and blah, blah. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. What are you talking about? A strong letter of caution or whatever. Oh, a strongly worded letter. Don't scare them. They just took over the whole fucking country. Like, God, get the fuck out of here.
That's why I'm just trying to live my life. Like,
got to, like, man.
Strong letter of caution. Like, and you know what else is helping the cause over there? It's like the people who are like taking a picture of like them looking off into a lake and the hashtag thoughts and prayers, pray for Afghanistan. It's like,
well, yeah,
shut the fuck up. You're not going to do anything. Just stop.
Someone took a picture. So that picture of that Marine holding the baby, that one that's like going super viral, someone is making that into a sticker or something like that. And they put it on one of the military pages and everybody's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, yeah, I guess somebody's going to start making money off this tragedy. You know, like everyone's like giving them shit. And it's like, unless you're like donating 100% of that money that you're making off that to whoever, then I don't know, man.
Yeah, and what sucks about it, and I'm surprised this hasn't happened yet with the goddamn social media. You know, you can't do anything right. I was waiting for someone to comment like, "Oh, look at that Marine. He's not holding the kid right. Oh, he's not doing." I
was worried about a shitty shave.
It's just like
fucking.
That's really like kind of changing subjects. That's what really bothers me is like the people just pulling things apart, you know, like I heard from an athlete that I follow, a CrossFit athlete. He's like, you know, I could take a picture of my fiance and I on a dock overlooking a beautiful lake with a gorgeous sunset. And someone will comment like the 1%, like, oh, you know, like, it's like, are you serious right now?
There's starving kids in Africa right now. How can you enjoy your sunset? Like, oh, you're right. I should be miserable all the time.
Yeah. I know. That same dude, he on that same subject, he's like, yeah, you know, and then we went out, my fiance and I, we were going to go out to a dinner, and we were in an elevator. We snapped a quick photo of us dressed up, and he's like, someone commented like, oh, what's up? You can't get your girl because she didn't have the newest iPhone with like the 3 cameras, and someone was like, oh, you can't get your girl the newest phone. You have all this money. And everyone else was like, oh, good for you guys. Yeah, you look great. And then it's like, there's always that 10% that's like.
There's always an asshole that's got to try to knock you down, you know, a little bit.
Yeah.
There's always somebody like that. You're never gonna get
that.
rid of that. Yeah.
I did that the other day. I'm in like so I drive a Tacoma truck, and I'm in like a Tacoma forum on Facebook, and I was like, hey, like, what I'm looking at getting like a rack for the back to like put plywood and lumber on. I'm like, hey, what's your guys' setup for hauling 16-foot lumber and plywood? Someone was like, oh, this, and someone was like, oh, if you have to ask that question, you need to go back to driving a Civic, bud. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like,
thank you, internet
don't
hard
even
guy.
say it. Yeah, like, first of all, that doesn't help. Second of all, like, don't even say that. Like, you're not helping me. But
the whole point of this forum is to help each other out, not be a dickhead.
I know, but like you said, there's always that asshole. It's like, yeah.
You know, that's just how some people, they get kicked around all day long, so they can get, and then they go home and they get online, and that's where their power lies. You know, it's the only time they can feel good about themselves is, hey, dick, you don't know how to put boards in the back of your truck? Douchebag.
Yeah. You don't know this?
What an idiot.
No, I don't.
I bet he's going to see my comment.
That's why I'm asking.
I get some fucking weird comments sometimes on my page, and I'm just like, you know what? I just stopped responding to some of the retards out there because it's like, I'm not going to sit here and try to like get into little battles and stuff about some of the stuff that I put on my page and, you know, things you might not like or whatever, or I don't know.
Yeah, I've done that where I've had something typed up and I'm like, nope, and I just delete it. I'm like, I'm not dealing with this. It's not worth my time.
I used to be that person where I'd get into like Facebook debates with people and shit like, no, dude, this is bullshit. This is why. And I'd be like, here's my source, you know, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, there's so many better things to be doing right now. You know, I'd get to a point where, like you said, I'd start typing it up, be like, this fucking guy. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm wasting my time right now. I could literally be doing anything else in the world, but I'm sitting here, this guy, making a comment on Facebook, you know?
Yep.
Oh, man. Fucking Facebook people. How was your, so those that don't know you, like you're a big outdoors guy. Are you you just hiked a couple days on the AT. We'll talk about that in a second. Are you still doing like all the competitions, like the Spartan races and all that shit? You've done like 50 of them.
Yeah, my girlfriend and I did one last weekend. We're doing it.
Okay.
Did a couple this year.
You're still into that, huh? Fun. Yeah.
I mean, so like, that's an interesting subject. Those people are a little crazy. So I do the races, and so like in the morning they have like the elite heats. They run first. They're running for money. Like they're super hardcore about it. Like, I do like the open wave. Like, let's just have fun. It's all good, man. I'm here to fist bump people and just like. And she's newer to it, so she's like, oh, I'm sorry if I'm a little slow. I'm like, nah, it's cool. I don't care. Just want to have fun.
Just enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's like I feel like every community has this. Those 10%ers like we always talk about, but it's like for the most part, and like Spartan race in particular, everyone's cool. But like, I've met people who are just they take it way too seriously. They're fucking assholes about it. Like, I did a race one time where like you have to jump over this like 7-foot wall or something, and sometimes I'll wear a camelback if it's a longer race. So like I'll take it off and like walk past the obstacle and put it down so I can go get it. And someone's like, oh, what are you skipping it? I'm like, no, I'm just putting my shit down. Like, worry about yourself, motherfucker. Like
this isn't for anything.
Right. And you know what's funny is like some of these dudes are like so like, remember that I sent you that Instagram clip of that girl? And hey, good for you. Like, it was that girl with like the pack on, and she had like the sandbag, and she was like throwing the sandbag like down the street in the rain.
Yeah.
I'm training. I'm hardcore. What are you doing? And hey, good. All the power to you. But it's just like sometimes I want to like sit and enjoy my coffee on the couch, you know. But there's dudes in like the Spartan community who's like, oh, you got to make everything hard. You got to take cold showers, and you know, if you're gonna watch TV, at least do bicep curls on your couch. Like a great example of that is like 2017. The Spartan race has this multi-day event where they just like fuck you up for 3 days. I think we went like 65 hours, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna try this.
What's that called again? It's like a gogi or something.
Yeah, it's called the agogi. It's I guess the agogi is like a rite of passage they used to do in like ancient Sparta. But yeah, so it was up at the CEO's farm, and it's just like a multi-day. They keep you up and they do like team building things. But we had like a Facebook group that we were like talking like, hey, has everyone got any questions about the packing list? Blah blah blah. And some dudes were like, I've been practicing sleep deprivation in my backyard, and I've been taking ice baths, and I'm so ready for this. And
I laid in the rain for 2 hours.
yeah, there's dudes who are doing some crazy shit. They're like,
That's
I'm
funny.
gonna make sure my feet are tough, so I'm walking around barefoot for the next month. I showed up like, yeah, I would go to bed at normal time. I mean, I work out a couple days a week. I've done a couple of these Spartan races, and I showed up and I did fine. But
So
I think it was just because my mindset was there. I was like, hey man, like, I was like, I'm not gonna die. There's people around me. There's water, and yeah. But
this is all pretty safe,
again,
yeah.
right. So those people who are training really hardcore, they passed. Most of them did, and then it's like went in like, hey man, like, and I did fine. It's so. But basically what I'm getting at is like one of the greatest things I could say about that is from the SEAL Rab O'Neill, the guy who shot Bin Laden. He was like, I saw an interview with him one time. He was like, I give a lot of speeches, and I'll get kids that always say to me, I'm training to be a SEAL. And he'll go, well, what are you doing to train? And they're like, I'm taking cold showers, and I'm doing this and this and this. And he goes, you should probably stop that. And they go, why? He goes, well, because if I told you 30 days from now I'm going to punch you in the balls as hard as I can, so to train for it, you have your buddy punch you in the nuts every single day up to the event. That means it sucks, and that means when I do it, it's really going to fucking suck.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the point here is like sometimes you have to like take it as it comes.
Yeah.
Do your homework, do your due diligence, prepare, do some recon, and be like, all right, what do I need to bring? But in the end, it's like, I'm just going to have to take this when it comes,
Some people just really get into stuff like that. They really like, that's probably, those people that are really into it probably have like crappy day jobs or something, that this is their time to like break free and do something completely outside the box, something crazy.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's kind of half of their promotion is like the whole, like, and it's great. Like you can be like a desk job guy, but every weekend you can go run one of these races, and I think that's awesome. But it's like, just be chill about it. Some people are way too hyped up.
Yeah. I did one with my kid one time, and he enjoyed it.
Oh, for sure. And I'm telling you, I used to fucking be that guy. Like, fucking, oh my god, I want to kill myself. Like posting all the motivational quotes on my Instagram. Like, did you like? Oh my god,
you bought into the brand, man. Right?
I did, but then I learned like, look, man, no one wants to hear your Instagram coach shit, and just chill and tone it down and live
train
your life,
harder, bros, and you'll be all right.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, I was guilty of it. But
hey, man, everybody gets into something really hardcore, and other people look at them like, what the fuck? Like, that's what you're into, huh? Like, all right.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying it's wrong to do that stuff, but it's just like, sometimes it's a little much, but hey, do you? That's the big thing.
You're the dude that all the brand advertisers are looking for. You really buy into it. But like there's worse things to buy into. You could be like a super Coke fan and drink Coca-Cola all the time and collect all the Coke collectibles. Or you're doing something like you're doing something that keeps you fit and like out doing shit. Like,
yeah, exactly.
There's worse hobbies to have than something like that.
Yeah, and you never know. Like we go there, and it's a cool way to spend a weekend. So like we'll go there if it's a shorter race. They let you like run it in the morning, and then you can volunteer in the afternoon, which pays for the race. So they'll usually stick you at an obstacle, and all you have to do is like tell people how to do it or just motivate them. But it's cool because you meet the coolest people. Like last weekend, we like did our volunteering shift, and then we had a couple hours left, so we helped the staff like break down some of the obstacles. And we met this guy who works for Spartan. He was just like a big ball of energy, cracking jokes, funniest fucking guy. But he had a beard and a ponytail. He looked like a fucking like a snowboarder bro. And
super
I'm
hipster
like, man,
dude.
who's this? Yeah, but I'm like, who's this fucking guy? And then one of the other guys came up to me and goes, hey, that guy over there? He's actually a professional skier. He's sponsored by Oakley, and two of his students went to the Winter Olympics. Oh. So he may look weird, but he's actually a super legit guy. Yeah. And then I found him on Instagram, and I was like, holy shit, this dude was like doing like double backflips and all this cool stuff. But you never know.
Do you try to network with these people? Do you keep up like with that? So with like your Agogi event, do you still talk to anyone from that?
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people, and it's cool because like just being friendly with them. And like I remember you'll find this pretty cool. We did a race like a month or two ago. It was at the original grounds where the Woodstock Festival was. It was right on the farm.
Oh, that's
So it
cool.
was super cool. Yeah, it was
Max
awesome.
Yeager's farm.
Yeah, I think so. They changed
Yeah.
the name of it. It's like, yeah, but it's they have like an homage to Woodstock. But like we met some cool, race people there, and then hey, yeah, maybe we'll see you at the next race. And then this one we did last weekend, one of the dudes I met at that race who works for Spartan, he remembered me. He walked right up to me and shook my hand. I was like, "What's up, man? I'm glad to see you again." It's
That's cool.
It's just cool to make the connection.
See, then that's one of those things where I tell people, I'm like, in that kind of moment, you got to get their contact info. That way you can be like an actual, that's networking. That way, because that guy could be into some kind of industry that you'd be really love to know more about, or whatever, or could help you and your company out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I find most of them on Instagram or Facebook. I try to
stalk
connect
them
as
from
much
afar.
as possible. Yeah, I guess. But again, I like to make connections because it pays off. Because getting into the hiking thing, it's like, Jessica and I hiked Mount Marcy, which is the tallest peak in New York. I didn't really know anything about it. And I was like, hey, I got a guy who I used to CrossFit with. He's from the Adirondacks. He moved away, but I haven't talked to him. I was like, yo, I want to do this hike. And he's like, oh, okay, take this trail, park here, be here, and this is what you got to do. And it worked out great. And I was like, cool, because I had a guy,
Yeah, you got to know a local.
Yeah, that was his backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have a guy.
I'm surprised you haven't gotten into ultra marathon shit. You seem like the kind of type that would get into something like that.
I'm only 30. I'm not dead yet.
You're like, it could happen still. You feel like running 120 miles,
Yeah, I'm open to a lot of things. It's weird point in life. Like right now, I'm still looking to buy a house, so that's priority right now. But we talk about it all the time when we hike. Like doing maybe not the whole Appalachian Trail, but like some of the longer trails. And I think you, me, and Joel were talking about this the other day. It's like, yeah, that's great, but it takes like a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year to do some of this stuff. And it's like, I have a regular job, so it's hard to do it.
Yeah, I think what's the Appalachian Trails, like 4 or 5 months, right? Or three to 5 months?
4 to 6 about. So it's like you gotta have nothing going on.
Yeah.
And you gotta have like nothing going on. You gotta have someone like home, like holding it down for you, like making sure bills are paid and all that. It's tough.
Yeah, for sure. That's why we were talking. Oh, go ahead.
Well, and then you get into like the Spartan races. Like I meet people who race every weekend. Like I know people who they live in Connecticut, but they'll fly to like West Virginia, Montana, and I'm like, how do you pay for all these races? And they have like a season pass where it's like if you just drop I think it's $1,000, but you can race unlimited for that whole calendar year. I could be wrong, but it's something like that. It's like you drop like a big chunk of money. And it's like, to me, it's not worth it because I don't race that much, but to them it is. Yeah. So that's how they find time to do it. So they're willing to take that investment and make that happen.
For sure. I mean, everybody's got their hobbies, Everybody's got the thing that they like doing. I like going out and shooting photos and just kind of doing shit like that, I need to get back into like backpacking. I haven't done it in a little while. It's hot out here now, so really got to get up in the mountains. But how was your hike on the Appalachian Trail? You did how many days? 4 days?
4 nights and like 5 days ish.
How many miles?
So our goal was to do all of Connecticut, which I think is like 53 miles, but we ended up doing 45, so we didn't do the whole thing. It was just because we ran out of time. So you got to understand, like people who do the AT, they get like I think they call it like their hiker legs, where it's like you start out kind of slow, but then like after a week they're crushing like 20-mile days. So right away we're like, all right, we're going to start here and we're going to do 18 miles the first day. Well, don't get me wrong, we're both in shape and we didn't take anything that we didn't need, but our packs were still pretty heavy. But yeah, we only did like I think 8 the first day, and then every other day we were doing like 10-ish. So it's like we kind of overshot what we thought. Like by like 8 or 9 miles, we're like, oh man. And you got to remember, we're taking like a break for lunch, an hour, and then every now and then we're taking quick breaks. But for the most part, 8 hours, you're hiking with your ruck on, and it sucked. It was a workout.
How hilly is it in that area?
Our section got pretty hilly. It had a few ups and downs. Like not like summiting a mountain, but it had some good steep climbs. So, we just kind of called it at 45 again because we ran out of time. I took like Tuesday through Friday off of work, and it was like her dad was picking us up on Saturday, and we needed like one more day essentially.
Yeah.
But I had to get home because my parents were watching the rabbit and her parents were watching her cats. So it's like, hey, we ran out of time, so we got to get back to our lives. But
your parents are watching the rabbit. It took me a second I was like, the rabbit, and I'm like, oh yeah, you got a pet rabbit.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Sure do.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But again, and then it's like, and it's like we wanted like that Sunday to relax and shower and just chill.
Recover. Yeah, you got to have some recovery.
And then the next week we're back to work. So it's like, it was still great. We didn't meet our goal, but I mean, who gives a shit? We had a great time.
And yeah, I mean, imagine the stuff you saw that no one ever gets to see. That's the thing about going out and backpacking and like hiking and kind of going on these long trails is that you're seeing stuff that no one gets to see because they're too lazy to get out there and see it. Like when me, you, and Joel and Seeson went to Zion and did the Zion Traverse, which is a 45 mile, which is about the same thing, right? We did it in 4 days, I think.
Pretty much.
We didn't see anybody like the whole time except for that group of a couple chicks.
Yeah,
like halfway
college or something.
Yeah, they were like halfway down the trail, but other than them, there was nobody else out there because everyone only goes for the highlights. They go for Angel's Landing and all that shit.
Well, we got to the end, and then we started getting depressed because we saw all the day hikers, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it was just like there was just so many people, and you could tell a lot of them had no idea what the hell they were doing because they're wearing like jeans and flip-flops and trying to hike up these switchbacks to get to Angel's Landing, and it was just like
some of the stuff that people were wearing, dude. And the funny thing too is that we were up higher above Angel's Landing, like the trail we were on was coming back. Looking down on Angel's Landing, all the people struggling up that one hill that they climbed to get up to it.
Yeah, it's a different style of hiking. Like I was telling.
Oh, for sure.
Usually when Jessica and I go hike, it's like we pick a peak and we'll go set up and hike the peak, come back down, spend the night. Well, this is like, okay, now you're carrying everything. There's no base camp to get back to. You have to carry everything. So it's like two different things to prepare for, like as you know.
Well, and for us, like the big concern on day 2, I think was water, right? Because day 3. Maybe it was day 2 because we had some water stashed in one spot and we filled up, we topped off, and then we kept going. And then where there was supposed to be water at that was marked on the map as a creek or something like that had basically dried up. I know I got down to like a half of an Nalgene bottle.
Yeah.
When we got on that day that we found water.
Well, yeah, we ended up camping just at a random spot. I remember in the woods but then like we ended up
because the sun was going down. Yeah.
Yeah, but then we ended up finding the water source, but it was like a little like
trickle,
a little trickle. Yeah. I remember that.
But dude, imagine not being like us, like being at the time, all of us had just recently got out of the Marines. Me and you were both people that were in the outdoors a lot. Joel and Seeson were both, working in the real world by that point.
It was like their first time out since they've been in.
Like imagine not being people that felt comfortable in the outdoors and you're on like day 2 or day 3 of a 4 or 5 day hike and you don't know where the water is going to come from. Like we were all like, all right, well, we'll get to the water. It's not a big deal. How much does everybody have? I remember we all like, all right, how much does everybody have? Okay, cool. Yep. We all have this much. And we just kind of made it last till we found that water. But could you imagine being like a novice going out there and doing that shit?
No, like even me, like this past, usually what I do is every time we go on a camping trip or a mountain hike, I try to like write down like what worked, what didn't work, bring more food, don't do this. And, I thought I was doing pretty good. This past Appalachian hike we did a couple weeks ago, we filtered all of our water from marked water sources, but we actually got sick.
Oh, really?
Home. Yeah, we don't really know what it was, but she got a fever. She took I hate anytime you say you're sick. Everyone's like, oh, it's COVID.
I was saying, you get the coronavirus?
No, she tested negative, but it was like she got a fever and we were like pretty sick. I'll spare you the details, but let's just say going to the bathroom a lot. And this is
the
like
old double dragon.
Basically. And this is like days after we got home. And I'm like wondering, like, what is it? Because I had my water pump and I put a brand new filter cartridge in there. Yeah. But it was like we would put our water purification tablets in, but we got kind of lazy with it. And I think that's what it was. It was like, filtering doesn't necessarily purify. It'll take the crap out of the water, the soot, but it's not necessarily going to kill all the stuff in there.
No,
So
I mean, it does a really good job though
it does a
of
really
getting
good job, but we
of
still got
almost
sick.
everything. Yeah, you still
So
got sick. Do you use a
yeah,
steri pen or anything like that also?
no, I have the
Just
it's called
tablets,
a
huh?
no, it's called a catadine. So it looks like a Coke can and it has like a clear
Yeah.
plastic tube. So you chuck that in the water, and then you have like another tube that comes out, and you pump that
Yep.
into your. But
That's the same one I have. I actually bought that because you were talking about it.
yeah, and I was really good. Like I have a plastic bag.
Hmm.
Like you take the hose off that was in the water, your dirty hose, and you put that in a bag, and then put that inside it. So you're keeping everything separate. But yeah, we got sick after, and it was
Huh.
not a great experience. So
Yeah, dude. Well, at least you weren't sick out there while you were out there.
oh my god, I couldn't imagine that.
Do you take a beacon with you? Do you carry any kind of like spot beacon, or I think Garmin makes one? There's a few companies.
No, I personally don't. But I do. I still have my like visual and IR strobe from like marking aircraft. So I actually clip that to my pack. So I'm like, if we do get completely screwed and like search and rescue's trying to find us, like I'll actually. My theory is like I'll turn it on just to help us out. I carry like a signal mirror with us. Uh, but yeah, I've seen those spot devices. I think they're kind of expensive.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are. Some of them are a couple $100, and some of them are a couple $100, and they have a monthly subscription. So it's like
I
if you're
didn't.
pretty hardcore, I think you'd have to have one.
It depends on where you are. Like I've never been in an area where like I was not like a good hike from a town or like people because when I'm going like even the AT, it was just we saw people constantly. You're near roads and you're near little towns in Connecticut,
Hmm.
and then every time I go to like Mount Marcy, Mount Washington, Mount Mansfield in Vermont, it's you're going to like a park, So I've never done hiking where I'm like the only time we've done it is when you and I went to Zion, where it was like, no, you're no shit like a day away from being rescued.
We were out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
Like
like yeah, that was like if you got hurt, it was going to be like probably a while before someone got to you, and you're probably going to get helicoptered out.
it would, yeah, that would have been the situation where whoever I'm sure you do this still. I do. I tell people if I'm going hiking, like here's where I'm going, here's where I plan
Yeah,
to go, here's when I should come out. Just call someone if you haven't heard from me by this point. That's probably what would
absolutely.
have happened is that we would, because if one of us would have gotten hurt like deep in the trail, you're like you said, you're a solid day hike away from, you're a day's hike away from any kind of trail head.
Yeah,
And most of those trailheads are in the middle of nowhere with no signal reception or anything like that, no cell phone reception or anything like that. So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
sketchy, man.
We had cell signal the whole time when we were doing the AT, so it was like every night before
That
we.
helps.
And it's also good because like her dad used to volunteer on the trail, so he knows
Oh,
it like the
cool.
back of his hand. So we'd be like, hey, we're at this campsite, we're gonna stay here for the night. We'll text you in the morning. So we were like updating as we went. But yeah, any survival expert will tell you like make a plan and leave it with somebody so that they at least know kind of where you are.
What would your or what did her dad say when you guys were um what did her dad say when you guys were planning it and you were like, hey, we're gonna do 18 miles the first day and we're gonna do this many? Was he like, it may not be the
Yeah,
smart choice?
yeah, he was. He was. You could tell he was like, I'm gonna let them figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what
Uh,
do you do,
yeah, but you know, it was helpful because I had a paper map, and then as we were hiking, we met a lot of through hikers. So the guys that were going from Georgia to Maine, and they were in Connecticut. And this one guy was like, "Oh, I'm using this app." And while we're on the trail, and I had some signal, I downloaded it, so it turned into like a digital map, and it was way more helpful. It was like all trails where it like shows exactly where you are, and it tells you how far you are from water sources. So
Hmm.
we started using that. But the cool thing about it was it would show like the terrain profile.
Yeah.
So when we got tired, I could be like, all right, hey, look, we got a peak coming up. So just kind of get your mind right. Like we're going to do a climb. And
Hmm.
also it has like a peak of like a false summit. It dips down and then it's like the real peak. So I was like, get your mind ready
Ready
for
for
that. Like
that? Yeah.
when we get to the top and I know you're tired, that's not the real top, Then
Yeah.
that helped out. That helped out a lot, like with our mental state.
For sure. All Trails is really good. I still have that. I still keep
is.
that app. Yeah. It has a lot of
Yeah.
really good maps. It has a lot of variety of maps too. So, you
Yeah,
know.
and then it still works when you're on airplane mode. So it's
Hmm.
like every single night, like I have a power block, so when we stop for the night, I would charge it. But like every night when we stop for the day, I don't think my phone ever dipped below like 70%. So it was a great thing to have.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. How is your, so I know you, on this time, you tried out a hammock rather than sleeping on the ground. You're anti sleeping on the ground now.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I mean, it's you're carrying a few different like cinch bags in your big pack. But the cool thing about it is I used to always worry about like a lot of these campsites are first come first serve with
Hmm.
like the lean tos, and I used to be like, oh my god, most of the time people are cool about letting you go in there because they're huge. But with this thing, you don't have to worry. Like as long as you have two trees, like so you can get to a campsite late and the lean to's full, you're not like screwed. You find two trees and just put it up, and it's nice being off the ground, and it's just way more comfortable. I really like it, and it has a bug net and a rain fly, so really nothing's gonna happen to you.
How much does it
But
weigh?
uh, I don't know off the top of my head, honestly. Probably the same as like a 10,
Yeah.
honestly. I mean, like a general 10. I don't go super super lightweight like some of the through hikers do, but I like it a lot. Um, it's all situation dependent though. Like obviously you need two trees like a certain distance apart. They have to be like a certain diameter. Like if we went out to like Zion where it's like all desert
Yeah.
trees, I think they make like poles you can stick in the ground and set the hammock up, but I'm not familiar with that, so I can't speak on it. But
Yeah. At that point, you might as well just get a tent.
yeah, exactly. So for where I am in the Northeast, where there's plenty of pine trees, it's great.
I think we used our like little one man pop ups, didn't we, during the
Yep.
Zion trip?
Oh, those are great too because you just get in it. There's like a little vestibule for you to put your pack next to you that's still underneath the rainfly.
Yeah.
So I still
Well,
have mine.
mine didn't come with a rainfly. I think yours did.
Yeah,
Yours had one,
yeah,
but
yeah. No, those are great. I mean, I keep everything. I don't, I have everything for different scenarios. But
yeah.
right now, I'm loving the hammock life.
You got to be prepared, man. Like getting outdoors, there's too many people. You hear about all these people that go out to the outdoors and get killed or they die because of something crazy. Like it's just, and then people that are experienced look at it and go, "What were you thinking?"
It,
Like
it, it
why
it's
would you
no
ever do that?
joke. Like when we did Mount Marcy, that was a you go there, you set up you go, you park your car, get your pass, you hike in, you check in, and then you just set your little hammock up, and then you hit the mountain, and you're gonna hike it and come back. You'll be done the same day,
Hmm.
but it's like I wasn't eating enough on that hike, so when we got done for the day, I had a splitting headache and I was like crashing really hard. So when we did this AT hike, I wrote like in my notes like, okay, eat more, bring more food, and we were like shoveling food in all day, and we felt good, but you have to stay on top of it. And
Hmm.
there was one night where we bumped into this guy at our campsite, and he said he hadn't eaten anything all day, and he was like, "Man, I don't feel good." And I'm like, that's pretty stupid,
Yeah,
like, yeah, that's really stupid. Why would you do that?
yeah. Especially because when you're moving, man, you're burning some calories. So
Oh,
if you're
you're
carrying some weight, you're burning a crazy amount of calories.
Yeah, I invested in these like my pack doesn't come with it, but I had to like buy these pouches that go like on my waist
Hmm.
that like I can like unzip and just have food in there. And
Oh,
yeah, it was like every hour maybe I was like eating a Cliff Bar and eating some blocks or just something, and you have to stay on top of it.
what kind of pack do you carry?
So I have the ruck that we carried at Anglico,
Oh, the mountain ruck. You
the
still using
tactical
that thing?
tailor. I like it, honestly.
Man, I mean, it's a good ruck.
Yeah,
I didn't get to keep anything when I got out.
Oh well, no, it's not the one I was issued, but it's the same one. I rebought it because I
Gotcha.
bought it because like I'm familiar with it. I know it works. A lot of people use the Osprey packs and they're
That's what I
great,
have. Yeah.
but I just like the Ruck because it has all of the like pockets on the outside of it,
Hmm.
so I don't have to like open up the main pouch to get something. I can like keep little things on the outside and just open up this one pocket.
Yeah.
But it works. It's probably a little clunky, but I'm just so used to it.
Yeah. I mean,
And And if
that
you have trekking poles, it's not a problem. Like that's one thing I would highly suggest people investing in if you don't already have them.
trekking poles out here are good just to have, even if you're on short hikes, just because of the rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
You know, like you can use that to push one out of the way if you need to, or get some distance between you and it. Like I've run into so many rattlesnakes. It's ridiculous. I'm so lucky I haven't been bit, you know, like knock on wood.
Yeah. And
That,
there's little tricks to them, like, uh, I actually take like Gorilla Tape and I wrapped it around the trekking pole like a bunch of times. So it's like as I'm trekking, it's like I have tape, and it sounds stupid, but there's been times where I've needed it, and it's like I don't have to reach into my pack and pull off this like roll. A lot of people will also wrap it around their Nalgene a couple times, so you have it. You know,
smart.
that's a little, yeah,
I've
it's a
never
little
done
trick.
that.
Yeah.
Huh. See, that's the little things like that, you know?
All I do is watch YouTube, so I know a lot of random crap.
There's nothing wrong with being ready when you're going outdoors, man. And I mean, like, the shitty thing about Instagram is it's making more people go to outdoors, especially like national parks and like really cool places that people want to go see. But it's driving people outdoors that some of these people, I don't want to say they shouldn't be outdoors, but they don't have the knowledge that they need to have to be like outdoors safely, especially when you see someone on a trail with like kids or something like that. It's like, man, you really got to be thinking, like, what would happen if someone got bit by a snake? That's one of those. That's when I really consider, like, should I have one of those spot like beacons? Because that's a real concern here in Southern California and the Southwest in general. You know, and if you get bit by a snake, you can't fuck around. Like, you don't have a day to to hike back to a trailhead or something like that. You're talking hours at that point. You know.
Yeah, like I heard like that. I heard like with snakes, it's like all you can really do is clean the wound and get to a hospital. That's all you can do.
And hope they have the anti-venom too. You know, which out here it's so common. I think every hospital probably has the anti-venom for rattlesnakes and stuff. But if you get bit by something weird and they give you the wrong one, man, like it's so sketchy. So that's like, you know, those are the concerns. I remember going out to the bridge to nowhere and seeing people out there with no water and stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing, dude? This is like 8 or 9 miles. It's not that far, you know, kind of it is for some people, but it's also like 90 degrees out, you know? And I've seen people that are like I saw a guy, I remember he was in his 50s. They were at the end of the trail. They were at the halfway point. They were going to turn around and come back now. And he was drinking the last of his water. And I'm like, do you have any more water, man? He's like, no. And I'm like, you want me to fill up your bottle? I had the pump filter and we were next to the river. I think he probably would have just drank out of the river, but I'm like, dude, you're like in your 50s. It's like upper 80s out here. That's dangerous as fuck. You know?
That's what we did when we did the AT section. It was like every stream. I mean, maybe not everyone, but like if she needed to fill, because so typically what her and I carry is a 3-liter bladder, a Camelback, and we'll carry one Nalgene just because it's like nice. In the Nalgene, we'll put like Noon tablets or some electrolytes. Yeah. But it's also nice having like a container to have water in at the campsite.
For sure.
But it was like if she needed to fill up, I would top off too. Like even if my bladder was only 3/4 of the, like I drank a quarter of my bladder, I would still top it off.
Might as well.
It's like, why not? You know. And we made a point to like stay on top of that. Like it was never like, oh well, let's just go to the next one. It's like no, we're filling up here, and that really helped us out a lot.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I notice a lot of hikers, they're and again, it's probably the lightweight thing, but a lot of hikers don't carry bladders. They like to carry the giant smart water bottles. Yeah. I mean, if that works, that works. I got nothing against it. Some packs you can like reach behind you and grab it, you know?
Yeah.
I just like having the tube right there, and I can keep moving. I don't have to slow down. I don't even have to think about it, you know?
That's what I normally do is I carry either 2 Nalgene bottles and then like a tube that can hold water in my, like a, you know, flexible bladder that I can just throw in my pack. Or I'll carry a Nalgene bottle and then a bunch of like Smart Water or Gatorade or whatever bottles full of water, because it's, you know, I don't know. I do have a little mesh thing because I have the Osprey pack. I do have a little mesh thing I can reach back and I can set it right there.
Yeah, so everyone has their own style, you know.
Hey, whatever, you know, it's just like the gear we were talking about before. Get your setup how you like it and be comfortable with it. Know where everything is. You know where your tourniquets are if you have them. I have a whistle. I have the little whistle with the compass and all that shit on my shoulder, you know, like I have in the front pouch like you were talking about, there's like either like some snacks, like the little Cliff gels, you know, have you seen those kind of things, or like the what's that? The honeycomb or honey something?
Honey stinger.
Yeah, the stinger honey things. Those are really good. Great. And then on one side, I'll have that kind of stuff. And on the other side, I think I have my first aid kit. Like I have some first aid stuff right there. And I have a bigger first aid kit inside the bag.
Yeah, that's one of the problems with the military and like TCCC is I carry so much trauma shit. It's probably overkill, but
yeah, I mean, I carry a tourniquet and some bandages, you know, like beyond that, what else what am I gonna do? Like take some quick clot out with me, you know?
I carry quick clot.
Do you?
Yeah. Well, REI sells it, so why not?
Do they really?
Yeah, they sell it. Not the green military grade, but it's the same company.
I think most medics or doctors would tell you not to use quick clot. I think it does more damage, especially when they have to peel it out. Maybe it's good in like a really bad, like I don't know, really shitty situation.
If I'm hemorrhaging, I'm shoving it in. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care.
That's one of those situations where it's like, well, I could die, or this will at least temporarily save me, you know.
100%. I mean, I have an Israeli wrap too, so I don't care what they say. I'm gonna pack it and wrap the shit out of it. I have most of the trauma gear that we were issued to us. I just rebought a lot of it with current expiration dates. Yeah. Man, you still know how to use it, so why not?
Yeah, it's kind of mind blowing, and I think I take it for granted the amount of like medical stuff that we did. The average person has zero like experience in. We used to give each other IVs, you know. We used to do stuff like that. We used to like do nose hoses, you know, like I was telling someone about putting in a nose hose, and they're like, "What? Like, why would you do that?" It's like, well, I mean, because you have to practice. It's one of those things you better do it now than to try to do it in the moment.
I stay current with it too, just because Jessica's in radiology. So
yeah,
you know, we always talk medicine. I mean, it's kind of interesting.
Well, we do tourniquet drills and everything else too.
Yeah.
You did live tissue training, right?
Twice. Yeah.
Yeah. Twice. Yeah. That's a controversial one. You know, do you think the so you've been in situations where people have been messed up and stuff. Do you think live tissue training helped you out for that? Like prepared you better?
It brings you right back. I mean, it's like that whole you don't ever rise to the occasion. You just fall back on your lowest level of training. So hopefully the bar is set high enough for you. And it was like, yeah, you know, they're drilling the acronyms into you and all that. So I'm not even joking. I snapped right back to the pig, and I'm like, this, and this, and this. Like and it worked. It worked really well.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take care. You know, you got to take care of business when. It's so crazy, like when you're thinking about it, like a sentient being that you're sitting there working on and stuff like that, and then, you know, they fuck them up real bad. You know, they're obviously passed out. They have them drugged up, but like I remember they cut like a leg off one. You know, they'll like shoot them or stab them or whatever, and then at the end, you know, you've done all these things to it and you've done all these medical things. They're like, look, it's still alive, and that was the lesson. It was like, wow, like it is still alive. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then it shows you like, and it's like a real world scenario. Like when we would do tourniquet drills, it's like not every time, but it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you got your tourniquet on. This showed you that like you really had to crank down on the windlass. Yeah, because like we would turn it and it would still be bleeding, and you're like, oh my god, I got to go like 3 more turns. Like, but when you're doing it on your buddy, you're like, oh, okay, it's on, yeah, it's cranked. But this was like, no, you need to like wrench on that thing.
It's going to be super painful in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're going to be like yelling in pain because of how tight it has to be.
Yep, but
oh man,
that's what you got to do.
Yeah, did you guys have to go out to like a farm or something to do yours? When I did mine, we were out in North Carolina, and we went out in the middle of nowhere. I don't even know where. We were out in the country in North Carolina, and there was some farm, and they had erected a fence and had blackout screen around it on this dude's farm, and then I think it was just set up to do the training, and that was it.
Yeah, we did this the same thing. It was like super hush hush, and but again, like the instructors are very professional. Like they were like, hey, look, these guys are giving up their lives so we can train. So I don't want to see anybody fucking around. And
they called them patients the whole time.
It was like if you weren't, nobody did.
Oh, I think I'm losing you. Nobody did what?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. What'd you say?
Nobody messed around, but you can. I was like, nobody messed around, but you could tell it was a very serious thing because you're taking a life in the end.
Yeah. I mean, from the beginning, the training for us was really serious. We did it as part of our advisor team training, and the first day, the first class period that we had, it was a PowerPoint on traumatic wounds that had been seen in combat, and these were photos from Marines and stuff that had, on the X or at the field hospitals in Iraq and stuff with like exposed femur because they lost the lower half of their leg or whatever. All these different like traumatic injuries. And I remember this fucking lieutenant passed out from watching the slideshow, and they had to take a 15-minute break while this dude woke up, and it was like, dude, you all right, bro? Like, that's just the photos. Like, wait till it gets real. I felt bad for him. I'm like, man, how can you live that? After that, all your buddies got to be fucking with you from that. But this shit, I don't know. We've seen so much fucked up stuff. It's normal people wouldn't probably appreciate it.
But I tell people that, like, I haven't run into too many of the Call of Duty warriors who are like, oh, we should just go over and kill and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, seeing people hurt is not cool. Like, it's not good. Like, I've seen a handful of people shot, and I've seen a limb missing, and it's like, it is not a good thing.
Yeah.
It's like someone's like, oh, going your whole career not seeing that is not a bad thing,
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah. I remember my buddy, when I was in Singing, I had a friend who emailed me, and he knew I was in Singing. He was like, man, like, oh, you guys are getting into it out there. Must be nice. I'm the only one without my combat action ribbon now. Like, this is a guy that was in Motor T, and me and a bunch of other guys kind of got out of that and everything. And I'm like, bro, I almost got shot in the head the other day. Like, fuck a combat action ribbon. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even care about that thing. Like, I just want to get the fuck out of here. It's like when you have a close call, you're like, dude, fuck this. This isn't cool.
I got home from my first deployment, and then I like immediately got sent to corporal's course, and me and my buddy were wearing chucks. This dude comes up to us, and he like points to it, and he had one, and he goes, how'd you guys get yours? We're like, what? He goes, your car. And like I said, he had one too, but we just kind of looked at him and we're like, dude, just go away. Like, why do you ask that? Like, you're clearly one of those guys who's like, yes, I got mine. Yes. I don't know, man.
Now that I've got it, everything else is good. Now I don't have to do anything because I got the one award. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Everybody looks for that award too when you see somebody in chucks too. It's funny.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he doesn't have his combat action ribbon. Fucking pussy. Not really.
Yeah, sure.
You see so many people get stuff for ridiculous things, and you're like, I don't know, whatever, man. I think anybody that's actually gone out and like gotten shot at or had anything crazy happen, you're like, you know what, man, it was crazy. Like, it was a cool time, like before, like other than the shitty part. But you don't necessarily think you want. I don't know. Would you want other people to go through that? I don't know.
I don't know. I would do it again.
Not knowing if you'd make it back or not, or knowing it would be the exact same thing. If you're gambling it again, would you go again?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I could reverse time and not knowing what I know, yeah, I would probably do it again just because.
Oh yeah. It's
a thing to do. It's like, all right, there's deployments and you want to go on one.
Yeah. I bet a lot of people are hating that they're not on this like recovery mission at Karzai Airport right now.
You know why? Because they're going to get their humanitarian medals, and I got to get one.
The guys in Haiti are going to get one too. They're going to get the exact same one.
Yeah, somebody at ANGLICO in Delta did that. Again, I won't drop names, but they're just like, man, I really hope we do some humanitarian work on this UMU. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. I know you just want to do that to get the purple medal and the purple ribbon. Like, I know you.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, like, do not even go there with that shit.
Oh man, I don't think that would be a good mission at all. I've talked to people that have gone to Haiti that did the Haiti mission in 2009. I think it was December 2009 and then 2010. Yeah. And I think 100,000 people died in that earthquake that time. This one's not as bad, but that one, imagine like the place is already like horribly run and just like a horrible place. And now 100,000 dead bodies that have to be dug up and out of the rubble and all that. No way, dude. That would not be cool at all.
Yeah, you heard stories like what Joel went through when he was there. And then your buddy Lindbergh, who was off the MEU, and then they get recalled to go back on ship, and he stayed there for like months. I'm like, that does not sound fun at all.
Yeah, like 5 months. I think
Yeah,
it was
that
like a
sucks.
5-month thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he was talking about that one dude who he was like the last guy to get pulled out, and he was EASing like the next month. So I'm sure he had to scramble to sort all that out. It's like all that screws you up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, humanitarian missions, man, that would suck. It's funny though, the MEU got called up for this mission at the airport. Like, they're probably like, "Oh shit, it's for real!" Like, "Oh fuck!" Like, we're actually gonna... Commander's like, "Please don't fuck this up. I want to become a general. Please do not fuck this up, guys."
Yeah, right.
Nah, I'm sure.
That's like the story. That's like the story of every MEU, though. It's like the colonel's like, I just want to do the minimum amount as possible, and I just want everyone to stand watch and keep all my ducks in a row so I can get through this command and pin on brigadier general, and that's it.
Some of them for sure. Yeah.
Some of them, yeah. Some of them are so scared to like send the boys out to go do stuff. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of garbage. What are you gonna do though? It's like I think we've talked about it before, but you know, anytime I see a post about Sergeant Major Black online, I'm like, dude, fuck that guy. I'm like, fuck that guy. You know, like he was like one of the worst sergeant majors I ever worked with. And I will always remember the few people that got to go off ship and go to Iwo Jima that didn't get to hike to the top of Mount Suribachi because people were falling out. So he stopped the whole hike and made everybody else come down the mountain. Yeah. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. Imagine getting a chance to go to Mount Suribachi and then you can't go to the top because fat fuck, you know, with his backpack full of snacks and water couldn't walk up the hill that dude's fought up. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude.
Yeah.
All those dudes should have gotten page 11s and shit. That pissed me off so much.
I know. And it's like that's a rare thing. I mean,
that was a once in a lifetime opportunity that the guys that got chosen to go do that, you know, and the guy that the S3, the MEU S3, which we fell under, fell out. He was one of the guys that got fucking silver bulleted. And I was trying to send Joel Flores because he did such a good job. I'm like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. He's a sergeant, but who cares? Nope. We got to send the junior must guy. You know, it's like, okay, for some stuff, I get it. But in this kind of situation where when is a sergeant ever going to get the opportunity to come back and do this either? You know, like he earned that spot. But now the guy that we sent anyway falls out and gets a thermometer shoved up his ass because he can't fucking keep up in a walk up a hill.
Yeah, and
fuck him.
And the not everybody, but I feel like the vast majority of like E3 and below don't give a fuck. They're just like, no, why are they waking me up out of my rack to go on this stupid hike? I just want to play my Xbox on the ship. You know, a lot of them can't grasp it. Some can, but
take people that appreciate the history and the significance. You know.
That's why I like what Tracy was saying when he was on ship one time. I think it was either Iwo Jima. I think it was Iwo Jima, and he was saying like they made each platoon do a book report on a certain unit that fought in the Battle of Iwo Jima, and it was based on how well they did it. It was like, all right, now you guys can go. And it was like,
that's cool.
Yeah, I remember him saying that. It was like first, second, and third platoon. It's like, you're going to do book reports on a unit, and the lieutenant picked like the best one, and then they got to land on Iwo Jima and follow the unit's footsteps. But it was cool because it was like he picked the best one. It was like, obviously you guys care and you put some effort into this, so I'm going to send you. You know.
Yeah, something like that for sure, man. When I heard that he stopped the hike and brought him back, I get it. There's like a risk. You know, you gotta have the corpsman, you gotta have the ability to do it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're the fucking sergeant major, man, like you should have grabbed the motivated people that were still there and taken the rest of the people up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if people looked like they couldn't make it, then have them fucking stay back, whatever. But there were people there that a once in a lifetime opportunity wasted because some shitbags couldn't fucking hike up a hill with a backpack full of snacks and water.
And obviously I wasn't there, so I don't know how he reacted. But it's like, he could have been this way, but it's like, how are you, it's like, you almost want to be like, how are you not pissed off about this, you know? And he could have been, but it's like, as the commander, I would have been like, no, we're doing this. Like, we already made it. Yeah. We already made the effort to go here. We're going to finish this.
Yeah. And, and that wasn't the only thing I hated about the guy. It was everything. He was just a guy that just wanted to make people miserable just to make people miserable, it seemed like. And when they named him as the sergeant major of the Marine Corps, I was like, oh my fucking God. Like, Jesus.
Well, it's because he looked the best on paper. That's why.
I've seen people online say that they worked with him and that he was a great dude, but as a sergeant major, maybe I've just had shitty luck, but my MEU sergeant majors were both fucking hot garbage. You know, just fucking shit. It's just horrible. My second MEU sergeant major, now to his credit, he didn't get assigned to the MEU until like a couple weeks before we departed because there was like a family emergency or medical thing or something like that. So the sergeant major that was supposed to deploy got pulled from it because something happened.
Yeah.
So I give him some credit for that. But about 4 or 5 months into the deployment, he chewed me out one time and started yelling at me about the ANGLICO guys being fucked up. And I'm like, I'm not with ANGLICO, dude. I'm on your staff. I'm your fires chief. And he didn't even realize I was the MEU fires chief. And I'm like, you're a fucking piece of shit. Yeah. Like, just fucking guy.
Yeah. That's what I hate about the MEU is like, there's like, it's like the sections, it's like for the most part, nobody knows nothing. And like, nobody's willing to help you. You know, it's like you go, hey, can I borrow some batteries or something? And they're like, no, like, who are you? And it's like, it's just completely fucked up.
This dude spent more time correcting me about putting my hands in my pockets than learning about what I actually do. And he's an arty guy. He was an arty guy. He was an 08. And so like, he didn't even know I was his fucking fires chief. It's like, if anytime I was with a unit and I knew there were other arty guys there, I'm like, where are they at? Let's go, find those dudes. Because we have something in common, but this dude didn't even take the time to learn his own staff's jobs and shit. He was too busy going around correcting people for doing stupid shit and talking about golfing. It's like,
that's what you got to do. Like when we worked with a weapons company in Kuwait, we worked with Cat and their platoon, they had a gunny. And he was like, okay, these are the ANGLICO guys. This is what they do. This is what they can do for us. This is Sergeant Dimauro. This is Sergeant Soto. These are their names. Hey, this is my platoon. Welcome. If there's something we can do for you, let us know. If there's some blah, blah, blah. And it was like, thank you.
That's
Instead
cool.
of just like, but then during the workup, I remember there was one time where it was like, we got told at like 3 a.m. they were going to go out to Firebase Gloria and go work with AAVs. So we're scrambling to get all the comm gear out. And of course one guy has the key and he's at mandatory company PT. So we're showing up late. We look like a bag of ass because we're throwing stuff together. We look like shit. They don't even know who we are. We're not even on the roster. And they're like, what are you doing here? And it's like, this is fucking bullshit,
Yeah, you become strap hangers rather than like enablers.
And now they don't give a fuck about you because like you were late and you're not like us. You're the weird guy. So fuck you,
Yeah.
God, I'm glad that's over.
Yeah. Now we're all equally worthless out here in the real world.
Well, I'd say we're a little bit above, just because we have some knowledge.
You have a little bit of extra drive,
But you know what it is? It's like it's more of like the mindset, honestly, because we've been through shit. It's like I tell Jessica all the time, and she's a trooper. Like she's all about like hanging in there, and like I'll push her, and she does great. But I tell her scenario is like like the Iwo Jima thing. It's because they had it out, And I tell her all the time, like when I'm doing these 20-mile Spartan races, or when you're on a mountain and you're hiking and you want to quit, it's like, where are you gonna go? What are you gonna do? There's no helicopter that's gonna come and get you. Or it's like I'm in the middle of a long race. I'm like I'm in the middle of a field right now, and it's like if I really want to tap out of this, I have to walk to the next water station. They have to call a 4-wheeler to drive up the mountain and get me. It's like, am I really hurting that bad, or can I suck it up? It's like, but it's like, what the fuck are you gonna do?
Mm-hmm. I think that's the thing that you get from being in the Marines and being, especially in combat arms, is that you've been in such shitty situations in training and in real life, whatever. But like being miserable, like being colder than you've ever been, or being hotter than you've ever been, or being wetter than you've ever been, and you just learn like, all right, this sucks, but there's no use in bitching about it. Let's just finish. Like get it done, because the sooner we get it done, the sooner we're done. So I think that's the different mentality that we have compared to a lot of people, where a lot of people look at those outs, like you're saying, or they'll point out all the reasons why they can't do something, or why this is uncomfortable, or why blah, blah, when we're like, dude, okay, I get it. It's raining out, but I got to go do this. Like I can't not do it. It has to get done.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just because like a lot of the shit we did was like I remember you talking to Farrell and he was talking about like being a plumber, and he was like, it took me a while to understand the mindset that like if I don't finish this plumbing job today, nobody's gonna die. But we were actually in situations where it's like, man, if I don't get this done, like something bad might happen.
There's actual ramifications. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like people, if I don't get the Humvees filled, then might not get food out to these guys, or any number of scenarios could have happened, you know. But because we've been through that, it's like it helps us out, you know, in the regular world.
Yeah. Just shared misery, man. Having that shared misery, that experience, like lets you know that's what all this other shit's bullshit. You know, you're like, oh well, fuck it. You know, like you can see some of these homeless people out here in San Diego and go, you know what, I could probably live like that if I had to. You know, like I've lived like that before. Like it's doable, but I don't want to be like that. You know, like
oh yeah, like this hurricane that was supposed to happen. My parents are like texting me like, "Are you ready? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, I could make this work. I'm pretty sure I'll be all right. You know?
Yeah, like
it doesn't bother me.
Nothing that we can do about it now. Just kind of see what happens.
Yeah, like I've been on like road trips before where I told my parents, I'm like, no, I just got tired, so I pulled over and I slept in the truck for a couple hours, and they're like, what? Where? I'm like, at a rest stop, and it was fine. Nothing bad happened.
I told my family that one time, and they didn't believe me. When I was back home, I went to the bars, and I was like, I wasn't going to drive home, so I just went to the car in the parking garage and fell asleep. And they're like, no, you didn't. Who'd you go home with? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I slept in my car.
Yeah.
Like that's why not?
Yeah, it's I feel like it's like, you know, it's like if you haven't done from what I see, it's like when people haven't done something in a long time, it just atrophies. It's like I remember like my brother doesn't ever take vacations, and like a couple of years ago he flew down to Florida and he hasn't been on a plane in like 10 years. I'm like, nah, it's easy, man. You just do this, and nah, you just check in and it's super chill. And he's asking a million questions because he hasn't done it in a while, you know.
Yeah.
It's like you keep it fresh in your mind. It's so easy, you know.
We take it for granted, the experiences that we got, you know, we were fortunate enough to have. I mean, how many countries have you been to? Probably at least 10.
Yeah, probably more than that.
Yeah.
A little bit more.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm around 15 or something like that. But like getting used to the international travel, it's like, oh, well, you got to go here and you got to take your visa with you. You got to take this, you know, like check in with the State Department, see if anything crazy is in that area. Like,
yeah.
It seems like a otherworldly experience for people that have never done something like that. Like travel to Hong Kong. What the fuck? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Or something as simple as like, the concert's 5 hours away. What are we gonna do? I'm like, no, I'll just drive. Like, what? It's like, yeah, just drive. We'll bullshit in the car and it'll be fine. It's within driving distance. But some people are like, no, like we gotta fly. Or it's like, nah,
fly.
We're fine. Yeah, it's like, nah, we're good, man. Don't worry about it.
Fuck yeah, that's a good road trip. 5 hours is nothing.
Yeah, that's an extreme example, but you know what I'm saying.
That's not even a day.
No. We do that. We did that last weekend, Jessica and I. The race was 3 hours away. So I'm like, okay, we need to be here at this time. Let's minus an hour for life. And then this is when we need to get up. This is when we need to be rolling. 3 hours there, ran the thing, 3 hours home. It took one day. But
man,
like,
you're hardcore. You're driving 3 hours to go run these races.
Yeah. Now, if it's within 4 hours, I'll drive. But other than that, I stay the night before. But the point is, it's like, hey, we made it work, and it's one day. And now we have Sunday to chill. My parents are like, oh, my God, that's crazy. I'm like, nah, make it work, man. It's all good.
Do you ever watch Alone? Have you ever seen that show?
No.
The survival show?
I've heard of it, yeah. But
I think you would really like it. You should check that out and then consider like prepping yourself to go on there and try to win $1 million.
Oh my God.
All you gotta do is stay by yourself for 100 days.
I thought about stuff like going on Survivor, but I would lose so bad because I would just get so pissed off at everybody. I'd get voted off.
Well, Alone, it's all on you. It's like you get dropped off and you're by yourself for 100 days, you know, if you can make it that far.
I'm not that good.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you got to like, it'd be like anything else. You have to prepare for something like that. You should check that show out. It's actually really good. For someone that likes the outdoors and stuff, like they talk a lot about, you know, there's a lot of little factoids that they show and stuff about people like doing survival stuff. And
oh man, dude, I'm good and all, I think, but when I get hungry, I get pissed. That's the crack in my armor.
That's the hangriness, you know?
Oh my God.
I think everybody's like that. Once you've burned up all your energy, man, you're like, You got to have something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Some people are like, oh, I watched you know that dude Garand Thumb on YouTube?
I've heard of it. I don't really watch it though.
He has like some funny videos, but he did one video, and he's a pretty credible source. He was like an Air Force SEER instructor, and now he's actually a TAC B officer now.
Okay.
But he did one where he's like, this is a video I'm packing for like a 3-day LERP, and got my chest rig, and one of the things he said, he's like, well, if you don't have to take food, then don't take it. You can go a couple days without eating and you'll be fine. I'm like, yeah, you can, but I'm going to be fucking useless.
Yeah, that sounds miserable. Like that doesn't, again, like we were saying earlier, when you're carrying anything and you're hiking miles, and a LERP is a long range reconnaissance patrol, that's going to be sounds like there's going to be some movement in there. That'd be tough to go in and do something like that without having some kind of food supplements.
Yeah, it's like could I do it? Yeah, but do I want to, and should I? No, if I can avoid it.
Fuck no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. Hey, so you're starting up social media for your company. Do you want to promote that before we jump off here, or have you even started it yet?
Yeah, it's PAR _ manufacturing on YouTube.
Okay.
Basically, all I'm doing is I'm just putting it up there to get our phone and our contact info out there, because like still to this day I'll bump into people who come in and look for some repair work, and they're like, oh, I didn't even know you guys were around, and they're like a couple towns away, and I'm like, we should probably do something about that. We have a website, but I figured this was just another tool to use.
Social media, man. You gotta, any company that's not doing social media marketing is missing out. And I think something like what you're doing is great for video, dude. You can make time-lapse videos. You can do, once you've completed a project, you can like take a photo and share that and tag whoever it is that you did the work for. Then they share it, like that's the game. That's the social media game.
Yeah, I figured it can only do good. I mean, I'm not putting like this goes to this helicopter or any like non-public info, but I feel like it can only do good. And it's my way of looking at it is like, if I get one new customer from this, then it was probably worth it.
Yeah, because especially in your own town, if you when you put stuff down and you tag the location, anybody in your town can see that. They'll be like, oh. Yeah. This is so and so's shop. Oh, that's what they do over there. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, I'll put it up on the screen with your normal Instagram name. Anything else you want to go over before we cut this off?
No, it was good being back on an episode. It's been a while.
It has been a while, man. It's been. Yeah. I'm trying to get some non-ANGLICO people. I've had a few people scheduled. I'm trying to change it up because I know it probably gets like repetitive for some of the stories and stuff like that. But I got some good stuff coming up. The Hellman Valley Growers Company is pretty cool. That's some MARSOC operators that are now like in the cannabis industry. Those guys are coming up. I think Paul Smith is going to come back on. Tracy Offit's going to come back on when he gets some time. He's been pretty busy lately. I have a few lined up, but yeah, I thought did you see the Blackwater one? What'd you think about that one?
Yeah, that was cool because I remember hearing about Blackwater when I was in like high school, and yeah, it's funny. I've seen like all the videos, and it was cool that he was like, yeah, I was in that. I was that guy, and yeah, that was pretty cool just hearing like the voice behind it. And another cool thing was I forgot who it was. It was like just before him, the ANGLICO FIC lead,
Angel,
who was in Iraq.
Jason Angel,
I think so. And that was so. Remember, I sent you the video, and I was like, is this his strike?
Oh yeah,
yeah. But that was cool. Like years later, to finally like make that connection, because I was like, man, I remember watching the video 10 years ago, and now you're talking to the guy, and it's just cool to like kind of complete that circle.
That was his controls too. Yeah, Jason Angel, episode 118.
Yeah.
And when I reached out to him and told him about that YouTube channel that you were getting them from, he's like, that must have been one of my old Marines. He's like, all those are my strikes.
Yeah.
I need to share some of those on my Instagram. I forgot about putting some of those up.
Yeah, because when I checked into ANGLICO in 2010, I was like YouTubing it, and those were some of the first videos I saw of them like doing drops and hit Iraq. And I was like, all right, this is gonna be a good unit, And, here you are, however many years later, interviewing the guy, so it's really cool.
Yeah, that's what is really cool for me too. Like when I think the coolest interview I've done so far, like personally, not the coolest. I don't know. An interesting one I did was with Jack Murphy, who was hosting on Soft Rep. And like I told him after I didn't tell him before, but I told him after the interview was over. I was like, dude, I've been kind of following you since like 2014. I was like, I don't want to come off as some kind of weirdo like fan or something like that. I was like, but I've been following your in some shape or form since like 2014 when he was on Soft Rep, and he has a different podcast now, the Team House, and which I watch every once in a while, but I got my own that I'm working on, so I'm always busy. But I follow him on Twitter, and I don't necessarily agree with everything he says. He's a little bit more left leaning than me on a lot of stuff. But it was like, dude, this is a guy that I've watched. I downloaded his podcast. One of the recon guys told me about it, and I downloaded it, and that's all I listened to while I was on ship. I had like 100 episodes. Yeah. So I'm like, I've listened to this dude talk for 100 hours, probably at least. And now I'm actually getting to talk to him. It was like surreal to like, actually get to have a conversation with him.
Yeah. That's why I like appreciate what you're doing. Like even like, I remember watching that documentary, like Battleground Afghanistan or something. It followed a 2-5 in Zamindawar, and then they had Levi on there, and I was like, oh, that guy's the JTAC. Like, I wonder what his background is. I'll probably never find out. And then you interviewed him, and I got to hear like his backstory. I'm like, okay, that answers a lot of those questions. Like,
yeah, he came on a couple times too. Yeah,
but it's like every now and then you'll have a guest on, and I'm like, oh, I've been like wondering like what that dude's story is, and here it is.
Yeah, man. And if anyone's listening to this and they have someone like that, they're like, I wonder what this guy's story is about, or this guy would be great. Point them to my podcast in the podcast description. There's a link that says, do you want to be on the Former Action Guys podcast? And all you got to do is go on there and fill that survey out, and I will contact you when I can. I have probably at least 10 people on there right now I need to contact. I need to read over all their stuff and contact them.
That was going to be my next question. Like, how many do you have like in the hopper?
I'll be honest too. For the people that send me stuff, if you're gonna send it to me like you want to be on the show. I had someone message me and they're like, I did 4 years, I didn't deploy, I didn't do this, and yeah, I just want to talk about that. And it's like, okay, man, like I'm not against having someone on that didn't deploy, but give me something where it's going to sound interesting.
Something I can bite off on.
Give me something that's, if you can't tell me something interesting about yourself in a paragraph, then what makes me think you're going to be able to talk about yourself for 2 hours, or tell us stories that are going to be entertaining. So I don't want to reject anybody because every story is important, but you got to sell me a little bit to even come on the podcast, So
is that like really quick, not to keep you, but is that kind of like your criteria where like, like what is like the whole like where you're like, I don't know if it's going to fit, so I have to kind of tell you in a nice way.
So there's like a guy right now that I'm probably going to reach out to who said he got out, he didn't deploy, he got out, but he went to college and he started playing Division I football. So it's like, okay. So now that's something that people will find interesting. Like maybe I'm in the Marines and I'm a corporal or something and I want to get out and play football. How did he do it? Like, what advice would he give? Kind of like, what's his name? The porn star, freaking. Will Pounder.
Yeah.
I will Pounder.
Yeah.
He
didn't really have much to do with his career, but it was like what happened.
He didn't deploy or anything like that. But he had an interesting story, and he was willing to come on and talk about it. And I thought. I was like, you know what? If anyone's going to enjoy this, other Marines are going to enjoy hearing about how someone actually did get out and become a porn star and how the reality of it is, which is fucked up. When he was talking about dudes like injecting their dicks with stuff to work and like dudes that had done that too many times. So now they're like putting pumps inside their dick to make it fucking work. Like, yeah, it's weird shit. So anyways, for anyone that wants to be on the show, give me something. You can't make yourself sound super boring, and that's not. I don't know. I mean, what do you want me to do with that?
Yeah, you're not doing yourself any favors.
Yeah, do yourself a favor and say like you did something cool. Like, and I try to tell everyone like even going to boot camp is more than the average person. Like, imagine rappelling. The average person's never rappelled. The average person's never worn a gas mask in a gas-filled environment. They've never gotten hundreds of rounds to go shoot. And just to get to go out and shoot rounds at 500 yards. Like, who gets to do those kind of things? Those are all things that even if you never did anything beyond boot camp that you think is cool, that shit is cool. Like regular people would pay a ton of money to do any of those things.
Oh yeah.
So
I got a friend when I got out. He was like, "Have you ever been in a helicopter?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Of course, you don't want to sound like the asshole, but and in my mind, I'm like, "Yeah, like probably over
yeah,
20, 30 times, you know."
a
But
lot. Yeah.
to a normal person, it's like, "Oh wow," you know. But to us, it's like standard.
Yeah, again, that's another thing that like I took for granted. Most people look at helicopters like, "What the fuck? I would never get in one." You know, that's so unsafe. And I'm like, "Well, I've seen some unsafe shit in a helicopter, but this isn't one of
Yeah,
them." Like just
and
cruising around in it, like
and we almost crashed.
I've almost that's happened.
Yeah.
But
I try to tell someone about that, and they're like, "I don't want to hear it." I'm like, no, it's super cool. Like, listen, and they're like, "I don't want to hear it."
are
I'm
you
like,
talking about from San Clemente Island?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I laughed my ass off because I'm like, "No, I'm here. I made it, obviously." But no, like, let me tell you, they're like, they can't process that.
That's a real fear, man. When we were like when the helicopter felt like it was losing control over the ocean, I was like, man, this is not fucking good. You know, like that was
It was
real
over
fear.
the water too. That sucked.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, hey, for everybody else out there, check out my Instagram at former action guys, at jkramergraphics, both of those, jkramergraphics.com. Buy a t-shirt for my Anglico homies. Anglicoshop.com is the new website there. So check out both of those, and that's it. Cool, man.